Last month, we sat down with Damien and Andre from Wolcen Studio to talk about gods, death, and reapers. This was more of a casual chat style setup than a full-on interview. As at the start of the call, Andre welcomed us by saying, "So, what do you want to see?" The game version we were shown during this is Alpha 3.1, so there's placeholder stuff, and it's missing the content that is in the currently running Alpha 4 playtest. But it was a wonderful insight seeing an early build of this game, seeing what the devs are working on, and being able to talk to them about the economy, about meaningful PvP, and how PvE underpins all of that, and just so much more. We're incredibly grateful to the Wolcen team for giving us so much of their time. And don't forget that Alpha 4 is currently underway. You should head over to Steam and sign up for that playtest right now. And then you should come back and watch this. Enjoy. You're making an ARPG and an extraction game, and those two genres go really well together in my mind. I'm surprised that we haven't seen that kind of thing before. And also you have ARPG experience with Wolcen, so it's like I'm very curious to just see your take on adding extraction to that genre, and essentially what you believe are the things that are core to each of those two genres and how you blend them together.
Okay. How many hours do we have? Because we could spend a lot of time talking about that. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. When I first pitched the game, which at this point is 2 years ago, I had the same kind of reflex as you just did, saying like, why isn't this a game already? Like, why doesn't it already exist? Because it seems to make sense.
Remember the original catchphrase that you came up with?
Which one? Because there were multiple, man, at this point.
The child one.
The what?
The child one. What if X and X had a child?
Yeah. It's basically what if Tarkov and Diablo had a child.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this all started from something very basic, which was the extraction loop of a game like Escape from Tarkov or Hunt Showdown. They are very, very complementary to the looting aspect in a top-down hack and slash. Obviously, like these two things go together very well. Actually, you could argue that looter shooters, which were born, I don't know, around the time when the original Borderlands came out, right, were an evolution. Like it was shooters bringing RPG elements into them.
Yeah.
So now,
100%.
to me, this feels full circle. Like it's us on the action RPG side bringing something that shooters invented for once, which is exciting. But it does come with some challenges. So you hit a very important point with what the core pillars are. And I've been saying from the beginning of the project, one of the key core aspects of an extraction game, and this I think escapes, and I think that's also why we've seen a lot of extraction games that don't do well. So from my perspective, a lot of people treat extraction as a sort of gimmick, as the basic formula of the game. You have some maps, you go in the map and you fight, maybe you gather some stuff, whatever, and then you extract, and that's the end of it. Like from their perspective, I feel like I've seen games that do this and think that that's the formula, but it's not. It requires an economy ingredient in there. So without the economy behind the itemization in the game, you have not an extraction game. You just have a glorified dungeon crawler experience / maybe roguelike game. But what we need, and what is a core to us, other than of course the combat needs to feel good, the itemization needs to be satisfying, everything that you gather needs to have value, and that keyword is value. So for us, one of the core pillars, which we haven't yet put into the game, by the way, and we want to test in a future closed alpha, not the next one because it's a big step, rather in the one before the next, after the next one, is going to be like player trading. I think that's going to be crucial to making the game work, because otherwise, if you don't have value to the items attached to the items that you're extracting, then what's the point? Like if you can't bring something out and say like, oh my god, I made it out with this really cool thing, or if you don't lose something of significance value when you die, then the whole thing collapses on itself. It has no meaning. in my opinion.
To add a little bit on this, we approached each closed alpha with a specific goal that we set ourselves in terms of improving the game, adding content. And what Andre says about the economy is super true. And we can't half-ass it, basically. We can't ship it halfway through because the economy, the way it's designed, it's either there or it's not. You can't have a half version of the economy. It needs to make sense, not in a vacuum, but with the full game behind it. That's the reason why we're not shipping it with the next closed alpha. It needs still a lot of work and design, but we're adding a lot of content with the next closed alpha as well.
Yeah. I think something that a lot of extraction games kind of miss is the fact that when you're designing it and you're trying to integrate these aspects of PvE and PvP, the PvE has to be interesting and has to draw players to it, because the intention is that the PvP is there, but you essentially need to make a decent PvE game underneath that layer, because you need players to want to go to these points of interest, want to actually have them engage with the enemies and the bosses that are there. Like you said, because of the economy, because of the loot being worth something. Because I think it's a case of you have an issue with extraction games where a lot of times the team focuses on making the PvP really great. And making it so they're like, oh, the fights are really good, and like the extraction mechanics are all there, and like look at our extraction. And it's like, yeah, but people need a you need
meaning.
Yeah, you need a game that is good enough that people essentially will enjoy it if they don't run into anyone in that run, because they are worried that they might run into someone because of the stuff that they got.
Exactly. And I call that, I used to talk to people because they were having a hard time understanding what I was calling this, what was the word I used?
Tension?
Yeah, I mean, tension is the good one, but anxiety. Anxiety.
Yes.
I was saying anxiety has a role to play here, and anxiety can be positive. So the way I describe it is that when your anxiety kicks in, that feeling that you just described, it, oh my God, like I didn't meet anyone, but I could have, and I could have lost this cool item that I found, and everything would have gone to waste. That anxiety right there, I think, literally triggers something in our reptilian brain that makes us more focused, more engaged, and it makes us record literally the memory of what's happening better. And it creates kind of like a story of each individual match that you play, so you will remember much better. I have vivid memories of playing games, and it's kind of similar to D&D campaigns if you think about it. I have vivid memories of going into a match of Escape from Tarkov, for example, and knowing every single thing that happened in that match, specifically because I was super tense and anxious at the same time trying to get this unique key I found or whatever out.
Yeah.
It gives meaning to everything you get through your game sessions, basically.
Yes, 100%. I cut my teeth in online games in like EVE Online and stuff, and so one of the things that you're always trying to be taught in that game is never fly anything that you're not willing to lose. And that really helps with controlling that anxiety, because there are times when you loot something in Tarkov, or you loot something in one of these games and you're like, oh my God, I got like a purple. And then you're like, okay, where's my nearest exit point? And then like the tension inside you builds, and that anxiety and that tightness gets you. And then like you hear a firefight off in the distance and you're like, oh God. And so then you're trying to get to that point. And like you said, like that anxiety gives you that story. And unless you can control it, then you're going to panic, and then that makes for great moments as well. But if you do control it, you may actually have that realization of, what am I doing? This is just an item. Like if I die, then okay, I can just try and get this item again. But it's so wonderful how, if you have crafted it right, then that anxiety inside you just builds and creates this tightness as you're just kind of getting closer and closer to that extraction point. And even when you get there and you've got that timer ticking down of like 5, 4, 3, 2, like that tension still builds. Like even though you're like 5 seconds away from safety, it's the most anxious you're going to get.
But those are the longest 5 seconds
Yes,
of the game.
100%. Like the amount of times that, especially when you get some wonderful ones where it's at like 3, 2, and then you see someone else appear.
Or you just hear something.
Yeah.
Or you thought you heard something.
Yeah. And like, oh, the tension then, it's just, yeah, I love it. I love it in Tarkov. I loved it in The Cycle. I loved it in Marauders. When you're trying to get out and someone's shooting your ship, that's just perfect. There was another game, I think called like Dead Siege or Star Siege, and the ship is like falling apart around you as you're trying to extract. And that's quite interesting because your path gets cut off as part of the ship is essentially just falling apart tile by tile. And so you're like being funneled towards those extraction points, which I think is great.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is what we're trying to build towards, right? Because we started off doing closed alphas to test various things. So far, what we can say is we did the technical tests, and we're still doing them with each closed alpha. But at least we know we have a strong foundation there. Then, so far, we focused a lot on moment-to-moment gameplay and bringing systems into the game so we can expand and really. And now we're getting to the point where we want to hone in on exactly what we've been talking about, and that's what we're looking. But we think this requires economy. We need to put the economy into the game. We need to polish the itemization. The combat moment-to-moment gameplay needs to feel good. The game mode itself, so the way extraction works, the way AIs are distributed on the map, points of interest on the map, and all these things are all things that we need to polish up in order for this experience to come together. And that's exactly what we're building towards within the next two closed alphas, I would say. That's what we're preparing.
So obviously economy and meaningful items is something that you've learned from Lords of Mayhem. And like that's clearly something that's helped you create this base. Is there anything else from making Lords of Mayhem that's kind of like made things a bit easier or made you more prepared for this game?
Well, there's things in common, and then we've found, there's places, the weirder ones are not the things that we know from Lords of Mayhem, to be honest. It's the places where we actually find that because we're doing extraction, we have to diverge a bit from action RPGs. And there are a lot of things that in action RPGs, they're obvious, and it's just the way it's done, and it's super simple. So, and they're weird ones. Like, to give you a couple of examples, in traditional action RPGs, I don't think most people know or think about this too much, but 90% of the time, the levels always go up and to the right. Because games and maps are linear. Sure, they're randomly generated and whatnot, but the way the camera works, the isometric view, you always have more view towards the up and right side of your screen. So the level design is constantly pushing you up or right. That's the way you always go in an action RPG game. We can't do that because we need to have a map, like sort of open space that people can come from all over the place. So we had to invent a dynamic camera that can adapt to where the player is going and how you're moving. That's a very basic example on a deep level, but others, for example, the itemization is another one, because action RPGs obviously rely on having a huge power differential, so you have a very big vertical progression. And obviously we didn't want to we wanted to give every player in the game, even if it's someone that's been playing for 20 hours or 200 hours, we wanted to have them have a chance against each other, at the very least, be not necessarily on an equal foot, but close enough so that both of them feel like they can have a fair fight, assuming they're both equally skilled players, right? And that was also something tough, and it speaks directly to this itemization side, because then we had to figure out a way to make progression and itemization more horizontal, and we're still implementing that to some extent, relying a lot on tiering items and grouping people in a way so that those tiers makes a difference, but they're also not matched with things that would outmatch them. And yeah, in the end, ended up with more horizontal progression than vertical progression. I don't know, another example that I was thinking about. Even something as basic as the leveling system. In an action RPG, again, this is always cumulative, but because we wanted to have this equal footing to players, we kind of borrowed the leveling system from a MOBA as being something that we can do match on match, so that you have that loop where you have to go in the map, you have to farm a bit, get up your levels, and fight other players. So yeah, I mean, we're constantly looking into other genres as well to find solutions to problems that either come from the specific genres we're working on or from the combination of the two. And I will say, I think the biggest issues we found is on the itemization side, like making itemization for an action RPG and for an extraction game, unfortunately, are not identical. They're very close and complementary, but not identical. So we have to sometimes find some good balance between the two.
Yeah, I was going to say that it definitely feels like you have to be careful when it comes to how the itemization is going to work, because one of the things that you always try to give the player in an ARPG is power fantasy of just cutting down hordes of minions.
Yeah.
But in any game that involves PvP, you have to then think about, well, gear needs to give a player an advantage, but the deciding factor should always be player skill. Within reason. Of course, if you are someone coming in grey gear versus someone in orange gear, then, like, you know, that separation should be a little bit wider. But I think that there should always be a case where a guy wearing greens can always beat someone wearing blues if they are a better player, as an example.
Which is the way we design the game internally. When we have design sessions, we have players that are better than others at PvP, and believe it or not, those players in gray gear or naked can beat players in full epic or legendary gear. For now, the balancing is going to keep evolving. We're going to keep adding more abilities and more stats on items, but it's already the case. And I think, Andre, we try and not derive too far from this as we advance in terms of itemization.
No, and I mean, to speak to an earlier point that you were saying regarding that PvE game that needs to live underneath the PvP.
Yeah.
You said rightly that action RPGs and hack and slash action RPGs in particular are power fantasies, which basically lead up to the player blowing up the whole screen, just swarms of enemies being killed at a time. Because we have the PvP element and we have quite a few number of players on the maps, we can't really afford that, because it would cheapen the whole experience for everyone to have it would be more like a co-op or like a PvP survivors game than what we're trying to make. So for our end, on the PvE side, we went more towards what I call Souls Light. I've dubbed this Souls Light. So if you think about a Souls-like game, which we're not trying to be, you have these big choreographed AIs, enemies that make big skills, and you kind of have to learn to dance with them, right? You have to learn the dance of each AI. So that's what we try to do as well, but on a lighter side. So we're not as punishing as a Souls game, but we did learn from that and try to go a bit in towards that direction. Actually, after we started doing this, another game came out, another action RPG, which I think is called No Rest for the Wicked, which actually went full blown in that direction. So there's something interesting going on there. We're not going as far as they will, and I'm glad to see people experimenting with that. But we have taken a similar approach to PvE, trying to go a bit in that direction, because our intention is that you need to pay attention to the combat even when it comes to AI. You can't ignore it. If you do, you're going to be punished for it. And even myself, like when I play the game, even though I know each AI inside and out, if I don't pay attention to the screen and what I'm doing, I'm going to get hurt. And then I'm going to meet Damien, and Damien is going to kick my ass. And that's that.
So in just a map, like if I was to load in and, want to play a game, what is the kind of distribution or setup that you're going for in regards to the PvE side of things? Like, are there going to be like mini bosses scattered around? Is there one big boss per map? Is there anything like that? Like, how are you approaching the map design from a kind of enemy standpoint?
So we're trying to create unique layouts when it comes to the maps themselves, so that each map has its own personality at the foundational level. Of course, this also comes through the art a lot, so you will have each one will have its own specific biome and themes and fantasy behind it. But above that, so beyond just the block out level design aspect, let's say, we then start putting several layers of gameplay ingredients on it. So I think one of the most important ones is the enemies. We figure out where we want to have different points of interest. So that might mean, oh, there's a small town here, or there's a small camp here where there's only 3 guys standing around the fire, or you have a patrol going on this road, right? So we try to figure out the big points of interest around the map. Then we start distributing rewards based on the size and density. We start splitting areas. So for example, oh, this area is controlled by this faction, so we're going to give these types of rewards. And we hope that over time, as we build these and we layer these things in, people will also have to learn, if they want to farm a specific thing, they will need to go to specific places. So there's, of course, in the loot pools that you will drop as you play the game, depending on what faction you fight, they will drop different things. Depending on if you loot different chests or if you break vases or whatever the case may be, you will have different drops come out of that. Yeah. So then our hope is that over time, as people learn the game, they will know, like, oh, there's a camp here, it has 3 vases and 1 chest, and it's worth to go if you're on the way, or if not, it's not really worth it because it's nothing special spawns there, right? So and that's what we're trying to do, and we'll obviously iterate. Most likely later we'll iterate on the reward side of things, so that we make sure that the full map is engaging for players to go around. And then, of course, we also have one boss per each map. Okay. Which on our first map, he has 2 locations he can be in, and we've played with that. I think for our next map, we're going to have just 1 location that a boss will be in, but it's a very small map, to be fair. So we're going to see if that has an impact in drawing people closer to the boss. So yeah, we're playing around with ingredients like these. And in my opinion, while we can say that we have done this already for a year, and my boss will hate me for saying this, but I think like the maps are one of the things that we will keep iterating for as long as the game goes on. Yeah, because it keeps the game engaging.
Of course.
We always need to optimize where players go and what they find interesting on the map.
Yeah. So you mentioned the vases and like the boss moving between 2 locations on the first map. Are you looking to essentially create a kind of static isn't the right word because it could be a little bit negative, but more like fixed points every time, so that, using Tarkov as an example, if I load into Tarkov, then one of the first things I might do is rush dorms to to get those cases and get that loot. Are you looking to create that same kind of thing where people can load into that map and they know which points of interest they're going to go towards, because those points are always going to be roughly the same kind of thing? Or are you looking to have variety and variations so that players are kind of running around the map a bit?
A bit of a combination of the two, I would say, in the sense that big points of interest are going to be, I guess Tarkov is a good example, because yes, you do know that you can go to dorms because there's a high likelihood of getting some good gear, at least something of value will be there, right? And that's kind of the way we see it as well. The variety comes from what you find once you get there. So both in terms of loot and enemy spawns, they will vary. Gameplay ingredients as well. So we have a layer of stuff like obelisks, for example, which have randomized locations and randomized buffs that they can give you. Not obelisk, sorry, they're called altars. And so these kinds of ingredients will differ from session to session. So you will never have a certainty that if I go to a certain place, I will get a healing buff. That will never be the case. Yeah. You will always have to explore inside of the match to figure out where stuff is. But over time, you can develop a rough idea of where to find things. That's the idea.
So it's more a case of...
Although you would be able to know that, okay, here is one possible spawn for an altar. So you can derive your gameplay through it. Like, you know that this is a possible location for an altar, so you go there hoping that it's there and hoping that it's a healing one, which is entirely fine, in my opinion. But Andre.
And I do that all the time. Like, I need a heal, I'll go to 3 locations that I know altars are there.
Find it, of course.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it's kind of that approach of players will know that, like, there is something here, so they will head to that point, but they don't necessarily know what is guaranteed to be at that point.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and if also if they want to farm specific things, like let's say, for example, they need a specific material, they will know, like, oh, if I go to that village, there's at least 5, I don't know, shifters that spawn. So I go there, I find them, I kill them, great. Or if I want to farm the boss, I just I remember there was a quest in Tarkov which was to kill Killa 100 times, if I remember correctly.
Oh God.
Yes, exactly. And I've had friends try to do that quest, and it was basically like you would load on interchange, rush the Killa spot. He's there, okay, kill it. He's not there, okay, get out, do it again, and do this over and over. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, is to give people at least a rough estimation of what they're gonna get.
Yeah, which is already somewhat the case, right? Because Andre speaks from memory here. When we were playtesting the game and doing, I think it was Closed Alpha 3, the one just before the one from Gamescom, in the quest chain, at some point you needed some absurd amount of leather. If you remember, Andre, we needed. I think it was 78, and the leathers only drop from the shifters, right? Makes sense. And I remember having a discussion with Andre and telling him, we have to look into the loot table because it's not dropping. And he was like, what do you mean? I have 80. And I was like, you do not have 80. And we looked at the loot table and it was right. I just was unlucky. But that's the feeling that we want to give the players too, right? Sometimes you don't get it, but you always know that these types of mob loot these types of resources. And then if it fits your current quest chain or the current craft that you're looking at, then you know where to farm it and you can.
But then it also adds to that PvP as well, where it's like, well, if you need your leather and you don't have it, but Andre does have leather because he's been farming that spot, then...
don't tell him, but I tried to snipe him in his session to get the leather because he had too much. Let's be honest, he had too many leathers. So
yeah, I mean, the whole quest system is also kind of designed, and it's very similar to Tarkov, I will say. It's designed to have people have competing objectives, right?
Yeah.
So if people are in the same point in their progression, they will meet up. They will constantly run into each other, just like the dorms example you gave earlier. Like, I mean, there's all of the population of the game, let's say, at a certain point will need to get a certain item that spawns in a certain place, and they will all go there and meet. And some of them will hug, most will not.
Yeah, I think that's my only disappointment when it comes to extraction games in general, is that I know it's not possible to make an extraction game like this, but I would really like a reason to think before you engage in PvP, whether it's because you have to weigh the pros and the cons, like, there being, using Eve as an example, you lose standing if you're fighting in like low sec when you fight people, and so you have to weigh up that, like, is this person worth shooting? And I always kind of wish that some games had that, because I would like to team up with someone and then go through something, and there's that risk of, are they going to betray me? Because it feels like these days a lot of people are just murder first and then like deal with everything else later. And so it's always nice occasionally in like Tarkov when you meet someone who does the little wiggle, and then you go off and have an adventure together with this person.
Well, especially since they introduced proximity chat, which is one of the features we also want to have even from early access, because it is indeed essential, like social features like that, and even emotes, which I believe is something that we're preparing to add to the game.
Yep.
And actually, it's been one of those things that people have been asking for since closed alpha 1. We've had people give us this feedback, and yes, it's true. Like, we need to give people tools. You mentioned the wiggle in Tarkov. Anything that you give them to express themselves, they will use. So yes, we do want to have those. Regarding incentivizing cooperative play, let's say, even between, like, not on a co-op server, like your full-blown PvP, you meet an enemy. I do find it interesting. Like, if we can figure out a way to make it work. And an example of that is, I know Tarkov had they had that thing where you had Scav and exfil. What was it called? So your PMC and your Scav, if they were together, they had some extraction spots where they could extract together, but they had to cooperate, and there was no way for them to know each other in advance. I find that was very interesting as an idea, but really hard to pull off. Like I didn't see much of it other than maybe some content creators making some cool content out of it.
I think it's one of those like 2% things that like someone's going to manage to do it on TikTok and that's it. But for the majority of your games, you're never going to actually see it.
Exactly. So if we can figure out a way to do it more systemically in a way that's actually interesting to the players, we will try. We will definitely try. But I don't have at the moment plans for it. We don't know exactly what we're going to do here.
Yeah. So you have had some playtests already. Is there any feedback from the playtests that kind of surprised you?
A lot of times. But it depends what kind of surprise.
Good or bad?
Or bad, yeah. We've had both.
We've had all sorts of feedback. There were things that were surprising. Some of them, I would say, like the most surprising to me are the ones that are hard to understand, to figure out.
In regards to how did they do that, or
just what motivated them to do to take certain actions.
Okay,
let's say.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the common things that I think most recently we've managed, I hope, to figure out, and actually at Gamescom, because we managed to capture this live from people in the room and watch them play, and literally go to them and ask, why did you just do that? Because otherwise, so we've had reports of people, for example, who so you play like your free match, you get to Sanctuary, and they took all of the gold from that they had in their vault in Sanctuary, put it on their person, and then went into a match and lost it all because they died. And we've seen this behavior happen, being reported, and it was happening a lot. And we were like, but why? Why are people doing this? Yeah. And we finally, I think we figured it out. It seems to,
I was gonna say it's very like I've had people who I've like tried to get them into Tarkov and stuff, and they just carry all of their money around.
Exactly.
It's like their little happy pouch, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you can leave it there. It's like, but what if I need it? And it's like, when would you need this?
When would you need it?
You need bullets, not dollars.
Yeah, no, you need bullets to throw at people. Paying someone is not going to get them to leave you alone.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yes, there was that. So one of them was this idea that, hey, maybe I can spend it in the session. But another, you will, but not in that amount, like not in those amounts. And the other thing was people were thinking they didn't understand the flow of the game initially, so they thought this was kind of like a checkpoint and they were never going to come back. So they just thought like, oh, I have to gather all of this and loot it and go to my next thing. So that was another aspect. So we're working on trying to teach people the flow of the game a bit better with this upcoming closed alpha as well.
I think. But sorry, go on.
No. This was just something that surprised me as an example. But as far as feedback goes, I don't know. Damien, do you have something?
Not off the top of my head. I think the most surprising feedback came from people that maybe did not understand that it was an actual extraction game, and that's partly on us. Maybe we could have marketed it better. Maybe we could have explained it better at some parts. But I do believe that some people like were surprised that they lost their gear. Like we've had actual reports of players, bug reports, like, "Hey, I'm back in Sanctuary. I'm naked." Like, yes, that is kind of the point.
Oh my god.
And you have to you can't
Yeah.
take the easy route and say, hey, he doesn't know, whatever. But we had to look at ourselves and like, okay, maybe we marketed it wrong, maybe we weren't clear
Or
enough.
maybe, I mean, it's also you make a tutorial, you make some explanation in the game, but
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to skip it no matter what. So we do need to find better ways of showcasing this. And also, this is partly why we ended up, because we could have just, like initially people were asking just for the co-op mode without PvP. We had a lot of requests for that. And that was because even though I think there's a large audience of people that crosses between, let's say, extraction players and action RPG players, for sure. You yourself said you're one of these. But we also had to admit that yes, but there's also a big portion of the action RPG community who do not want to play PvP at all. So that's why we ended up adding co-op. Now we added story mode for those who are really scared of loss aversion, and in that mode you don't even lose items. So it's literally a mode just for you to explore the story and the universe of the game.
Little addendum here, we will add story mode and co-op. We don't have it yet.
Oh yes, we're working on bringing these. But
I mean, you already have co-op. Couldn't you just make that button that when you click it, it just loads up the Steam page for Lords of Mayhem? Because like you've made a co-op ARPG, like they could just go play that.
Yeah, but it's a different universe, and I can understand people wanting to play and explore this without the threat of PvP.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the community driven, right? Because when Andre pitched the game and imagined it from scratch and designed it, and we started working on it, it was an extraction ARPG, 100% PvP, no PvE, no nothing.
Yeah.
But being open and community driven, we've received this feedback so much that we're like, okay, if we make it right, it'll fit the design intentions. If we're smart about it, we can satisfy both layers of the player base, and that's a big part of our commitment to being community driven. Is to sometimes you'll receive feedback and you're like, that is not our game. E.g., I don't want to lose my items when I die. No, that we can't. But when we can give more and do more, we will try to do when it fits.
Yeah, especially if it doesn't, like if it fits what the game is meant to be.
Yes.
That's a good example about giving people access, because it also helps us, or it helps them maybe understand the game better. So let's say that you make an account, you don't care about PvP. Maybe you get into it to play with some friends. You play the co-op mode with your friends, and you see this. Okay, so this is the story. I have my character. I progress and whatnot. And this could also kind of get you more attached. Like, okay, the universe is interesting. The combat is nice. I like it. Whatever. So maybe you want to create another account to try the PvP as well. Right? Yeah. You can even have those things separate, and that's why we did it by character, by the way. So that this way you can have your co-op character, you play with your friends, you have your PvP character, you play by yourself, a story character where, I don't know, maybe you just experiment with builds on, whatever.
Yeah. And season based, of course, which means you're never gonna go, and if you want to wait 2 months for the new season and start fresh with everyone else, you can. And now is the good time for you as a new PvP player to just try it out. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You still have your PvE character with your friends, but if you do like it, well, good.
I definitely think it's an interesting one, because I'm someone who very much pushes for accessibility in games, and that I think people don't always necessarily think that includes things like difficulty, as well as things like colorblind modes. It includes things like being able to pause your game or any of these kind of things, which some online games you just can't do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I always find the one argument or the one request that I always find incredibly strange is anytime someone makes an extraction game or makes a game like this, you always get a group of people who are like, I want a version that doesn't have the PvP in it. Which just I understand that there are people who are adverse to PvP. I fully understand it, and like that's fine. But I find it incredibly strange that they always turn up in the games that are like, we are a PvP game, and they turn up and they're like, could we get a version without the PvP? It's like,
but I know why. I have actually I have a friend.
oh yeah, okay.
So yeah, I also found it interesting. He plays the PvE version of Escape from Tarkov, for example.
Okay.
And I also I went down a rabbit hole saying like, okay, but why? Why do you do this? Because for me, the PvE version of Escape from Tarkov has
it's not a very good game in my opinion, but
it has two fundamental issues. One of them is that they don't reset the economy in that state. So the PvP side they reset, the PvE they don't. So that means that it's infinite inflation all the way. Then the other weird problem they have is, of course, like the game is a lot easier because you don't have other players. Sure, they try to simulate it, but in my opinion, sometimes it just feels so unfair, like you're just killed randomly. You got a headshot from an AI. Sure, I did. So these two things are a bit weird, but like playing devil's advocate, I did speak to him and I understood why. And that's because he didn't want to play it for the hardcore aspect, the grindiness and whatnot. He wanted to play it more for the fantasy. So the military sim kind of things. So he wanted to play the game without the high stakes, basically just for the sake of immersing himself, relaxing and all of that. So that's why I say, like, even for this game, like, you could play the story mode, you could play the co-op mode just for the story, just to see like, okay, what are these characters about? Who's deaf? Why do I care? Who are these all of these characters and why are they doing stuff for me? Or sorry, why am I doing stuff for them? Or on the co-op side, it's generally just fun with friends, typically, right? You could just do it to chill with friends. So I understand the aspect. And again, like I feel like at some point, because I think that's the fundamental difference. In my opinion, and I've held this opinion ever since I was a gamer back in '96, PvP games, like since the moment I've discovered them, have the element of, human-generated content. At the end of the day, is what I would call it. Even a game of chess is completely unpredictable because you're playing another human being, right?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the story mode, the co-op, all of that will get stale for you as a player. And hopefully at that point, you'll be invested enough and you'll care enough that if you move on to the PvP side of things, you'll be like, there's an entire new game that's constantly dynamic and shifting.
Yeah.
That's
I fully agree with you. It's, I think, something that you can make the best PvE that you possibly can. And personally, I don't think that can match the variation that you can get from PvP. Because humans...
for a very good reason,
humans are irrationally scared, skittish creatures at times, and you cannot make a computer that thinks like that because a computer will go, well, if A, then B. Whereas if you're asking a human, they'll go, if A, and it's like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Sorry, as you were going to say, Damien.
Also, there's another very, very obvious reason is that when we designed the game originally, the PvP was baked into it by design, right?
Yeah.
So every side mode that we do is going to be a combination of lots of things, but we need to take out a very vital aspect of the game. So it'll obviously be a lesser version of that game.
Yeah.
Now, if some players are interested in it enough to be interested in a game that has PvP baked into its DNA and play the version without it and like it, I think somewhere along the road we did something very right with the game.
Yeah.
Which is a win, I think. But the game will ease PvP in its DNA, so that's still going to be our main focus. Andre, if you can confirm.
Yeah. I was just looking at the time, and we spent a bunch of time talking, but not really showcasing anything new. And I was just gonna say a bit, Damien, if you want, we could go on the Helheim map if you want to set yourself to. I think you have the game open as well, right? If not, I can go solo.
No, I have the game open as well, but
so we can of course continue the conversation.
Yeah, of course.
anything to show, but at least you get to see something new that wasn't in the Gamescom build. Even.
I think it again comes like just wrapping up the point is I think it again comes back to what we were all saying at the start, where it's like you need that good RPG underneath that layer. Like, because even if you like, if they are like, oh hey, we really like this, we're connecting to this even without the PvP, then like you said, Damien, it means that you've done something well, because it means that layer underneath the PvP is so solid that people want to engage with it regardless, which I think is fantastic.
I don't remember. I think it was CA2 or when did we introduce Quest, Damien? 2 or 3? I think 3.
CA2 the very, very beginning, and CA3 the full quest line. Well, the full quest line, the 20-hour quest line.
Oh, okay. So so CA3 was the Golden Nuts
yes,
quest line.
pretty much.
Because at that point, like that was something that, prior to releasing the CA, I played the whole thing top to bottom, and I think it took me like 20 hours to finish the quest that we had put in CA. And I did that solo. Like there were no players on the servers. I was alone. I was just, just because
for the resources and stuff.
No, exactly. Like no competition.
So it will take longer for people when there is chaos involved.
Exactly. Exactly. But what I realized playing that was that I was kind of having a fun time, because I was kind of like scavenging. I honestly did not know by heart the quest, like the narrative designer did, and placed where things are and put clues in the quest and all of that. So I went in kind of figuring out what I need to do, just like a normal player should, I guess. And I found myself that, even doing that, like playing like that, I had a blast. I had like a map, like here, go from point A to B, and I just was on my merry way. So I understood kind of like, I can see someone enjoying this in story mode, just mindlessly following the trail that the quest takes you on.
Can we, while you're like loading in and showing it off, can we talk about the setting? Because I'm very curious of where the incredibly metal name came from, because when we were booking appointments for Gamescom and when you were still like back at that stage, it was Project Pantheon, like this super secretive sounding title, and then you came out with Gods, Death and Reapers, which is incredibly metal. But
that's why we made metal t-shirts.
I like
t-shirts.
it.
They're very like they sound like a garage metal band.
It definitely sounds like something you would make in like your later years in college or something with a couple of friends. Where did the name come from? Like, what does the name kind of mean in the setting of the universe? Like, can you talk more about that side of things?
Yeah. I mean, the universe is so to start from the universe itself, and I'll try to be very brief about it. But we needed a place like that was apocalyptic in nature because of the scarcity of that kind of universe. So there were these elements. We wanted it to be fantasy. We wanted it to be apocalyptic in nature. So I started diving into mythologies, because they were I was thinking like, okay, we could easily take a mythology, break it apart, and have an apocalypse inside of that. Then it became really difficult to choose. So we went like, you know what, why not take them all and do like a sort of American God style or a Stargate style, where you have all of the mishmash, combine them together with some principle that makes sense. So we did that. When it came to the name, this was very, very late that we actually chose the name. Project Pantheon was always intended to be a placeholder, like it's an internal code name for the project. And we announced it because we wanted to start doing technical tests and stuff on it, even though the brand wasn't ready. And ultimately, we had a lot of candidates. I remember we had like 40 names that we researched for the name of the game, a lot of which fell through because of legal reasons or otherwise. And this one was just... I think it was Bogdan who came up with it, because we had a long list of candidates. Bogdan came up with it, and I remember hearing it for the first time, and it was pretty much like, I mean, that's what the game is. It's at its core, it's about gods that have died. God's Death was actually intended to be a sort of play on words, because you can read it either as God's Death or God's Coma Death. It works either way. So yeah, it's about that, and death being this interconnecting tissue between the different mythologies that we have in the game, and our players, which are Reapers.
Yeah, I always read it with a comma. By the way, I always read it as gods, comma, death.
That's
comma,
the
and
most
reapers.
used way of reading it. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how we will always put it in writing. But there's a small wink about God's death as well.
Yeah. So Andre is playing on Helheim, which is still work in progress, but that we do intend on shipping for CA4 for our next closed alpha. It's the new map.
Oh, you're not on the server with me? No,
No,
I'm
I'm
alone. I'm alone. I see now. Yeah, I'm even playing with some placeholder abilities. So
yeah. Do you have a staff with the new abilities? Because you have the blink on there. It's very cool. Yeah, the white one.
Should be here. No. No, this is the explosion.
It's yeah.
I mean, you can see these abilities don't even have cooldowns right now. They're freshly made. I think this one doesn't even have a lot of damage.
Not yet, no, but we're working on it. We haven't started the full out balancing yet.
I prefer the new staff. Sorry, the new Warhammer abilities.
You do? Yeah, interesting. If there's a blink in game, I'll always use that. I don't know. It's my kind of my go-to. But I've been playing. I don't know if you've been playing Diablo 2, Dave. I've been playing Diablo 2 a lot, and there's a class that's called the Sorceress, which entire identity is the blink, basically. So whenever I can, I'll use a blink. Don't mind me.
Yes, I've been meaning to play the remaster. I've heard like nothing but good things about it in regards to like how it looks. So I'm very, very much interested in grabbing it. It's just a case of finding that free time. I think all of us are struggling for that free time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I have.
Go to, maybe you can go to the Fenrir area. I think it's here on the map now.
Oh yeah, it's here at the top.
At the
yeah.
top.
So on this map, on Helheim in particular, we're gonna be doing something a bit new, which is introducing an NPC. Oh, I can't pass here. What is that collision? No, wrong. No, there's no.
No, you can. Maybe they blocked it for some reason. Let me check.
They must have blocked it. But yeah, we can see a glimpse. That's a placeholder Fenrir. He's gonna be part of the story of the game, and you are gonna have to unlock him and have access to him as a sort of something between a vendor and a crafter. Well, he can help you kind of transmute some items.
What kind of difficulty level are you going for with the PvE? Because something that I always find very interesting in ARPGs or in extraction games is sometimes the PvE is just meant to be there to have you make noise and isn't really a threat, but it seems like games, some of the extraction games nowadays are actually pushing for their PvE to be a little bit harder or a little bit more threatening on its own. So I'm just wondering where you're kind of aiming to get that PvE difficulty.
Well, as I said, like we're gauging it as a sort of Souls-Light. So in Souls-Light, I think that if I am to compare directly, the biggest difference would be that in a Souls-like game, if you do mistakes, you die pretty fast.
Yeah.
Now we can't really afford to kill people that fast, so there will be some wiggle room. But as you can see, for example, now that I've played a couple of minutes, not paying much attention, I already lost like 30% of my HP. So that's gonna bite me in the ass, or it would if there was someone on the server, and I think that's kind of where we want our difficulty to be. We also have so because we have that MOBA-like leveling system in the game, where players will increase in power. So I just gained a level. Now I can invest in my ultimate ability. I can choose one that I actually like, and yeah, this will obviously make me stronger as the session goes on. My stats increase, my abilities increase. So PvE will get you would think that it becomes less important, but it doesn't, because AIs scale with me. So on the map we have these waves that spawn, and with each wave the mobs get harder.
Yeah.
The density of mobs gets bigger, and also Damien, do we do this next CA with the elites?
Yes, we'll have
So-
some elites next year as well.
Yeah, so all of the monsters in the game can also spawn as an elite version of themselves, making them even more tougher. So with each wave, eventually you will get to a place where there's a lot of elites on the map. So yeah, we basically want to have this stage where you have to pay attention to the game and keep progressing at the same pace as the player is increasing in power throughout the level, so that you're never really safe. You should never think yourself to be safe. Of course, factions can even fight each other, like in this case here. So you can use that to your advantage.
And also just adds to that world feeling like an actual world when you've got this kind of conflict going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We try to bake these kinds of things and living, breathing world into the level design, the level art, and through the way we design the factions fighting each other.
Yeah.
I believe in this CA we're also going to be introducing some what we call life cycles to the AI, because at the minute in previous closed alphas they were just roaming around, but now as players are going to roam through the maps, we want to add more behaviors to them, like as if they're actually doing something where they are. So wherever there's like, let's say there's a campfire, they're sitting around the campfire. You walk into a village and they're standing gathered together or moving wood from one place to another. So you have that simulation, I guess you would call it, of a real world.
Yeah, and if you want some behind the scenes of some of the things that we design internally as a joke, but maybe in the games at some points, is that the next faction that we're introducing are the Unworthy, which are not on the map right now. You can't see them, but they're basically rotting masses of corpses that are bound with each other, you know, in this kind of like horrible, dirty feeling, right? And what was pitched at some point as a joke was that they're sitting around the campfire and they're roasting flesh marshmallows. So we were like, hey, what if they did this? And then we were like, what if they actually did this?
I mean, look at this. Look at these piles. They're definitely inspiring of that.
Yeah.
But this is meant to be Helheim. So Helheim is let me get to a point that actually makes it
have the full wall yet, but there's the big wall that separates.
No, I believe the wall is a bit placeholder at the moment.
Yeah, it still be.
Let me skip these parts because I have so it's very gray blocks, gray blocky.
I mean, it is a big wall, and we're crafting everything by hand, which means the wall, each of the stones, everything is crafted by hand and modified. There's nothing procedural.
Yeah.
Everything you see, it's an artist's hands that drew it and put it to life. So that's why it takes a little bit of time to do such a big wall.
I mean, technically, this entire map is separated. There's a northern side to it, a swampy area under the control of one faction, and then this other. I think this is called the Nastrond.
On the Black Sand.
Yes, but it's the shore of the Unworthy, where we're going to have a new faction, which is not in the game yet at the minute, that simulates a very body horror kind of existence. These are basically the guys that were not worthy to make it into Valhalla.
Okay.
The boats with the algae on top look awesome.
In Asgard. So basically their rotting existence is condemned to be lived out here in this realm.
Yeah.
Where their bones are the decor, basically.
I think it's really cool that you're merging these two genres, because it's one of those things where when you think about it, it makes total sense, and yet people haven't done it really before, and it's kind of that whole weird, like, why have they?
You know when we met at Gamescom and you told that to me, the first thing I did after we wrapped up everything and we went in town to grab a beer, I told Andre and Bogdan, I've met him and he told me this, and it was so heartwarming because we're taking a gamble here. We're
Yeah.
merging two niches. We know we have something in our hands that we can make beautiful, but it's still a gamble. And hearing this is like exactly what you want to hear and keeps you motivated to just keep on going, and knowing that there are people out there that are expecting exactly this. They're just waiting for the right game for
Yeah.
it. So it was very heartwarming to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I will say I spend most of my day talking about the game all day, and it's
I mean, you're a
exciting.
game director. That's kind of
No, but it's exciting to do it with someone new, not someone from the team.
Oh.
That definitely has a clear interest in this.
That was going to be my final question I was going to ask is, you've obviously had the alphas, and so you've gotten the feedback and the kind of communication through those, but what was it like having it at Gamescom and actually being in the room with the people playing it and getting that feedback and seeing that excitement essentially live?
For me.
I would say it was exciting, but
Yeah.
to be fair, having the closed alphas before helped. It helped because we had put the game into the hands of people. We knew how the game behaved. We knew the bad parts as well. So it was incredibly, I don't want to say relaxing, but to just have the game that didn't really have technical issues. Like we didn't have to stay behind people and tell them, no, don't click that button, it's gonna crash. Oh yeah, there's that. So having something that pretty much like we could tell people like, hey, just try it out on your own, and if you have questions, just ask us. And most of the time people didn't have questions and had a hard time leaving their chairs. It was great for us.
I had to physically kick people out of the room, which was heartbreaking. But at the same time, you're like, okay, they don't want to stop playing the game, so I guess at the very least we're on the right track. Now it's just a matter of making a good game and a fun game, which is the hardest part, of course. But
we definitely have things more to do. But yeah, I mean the experience at Gamescom itself was great.
It's always a really easy question to ask because I think people always think that the answer is going to be exactly the same. So it's like, oh, that's a silly question to ask. But I always love that you get some devs who are like, no, we were excited as hell to be showing off. And you get some who are like, oh, like the nerves right up until like that opening moment just had us. So I think it's really wonderful that your answer was just, I was zen because they were playing a build that I didn't have to stand over their shoulder. I think that's a wonderful answer.
Yes, and I mean, we've all been there. I've been in the industry for a while now. I've been there when, I had to like download the build a day before Gamescom, physically bring it with a flash drive, download it over hotel Wi-Fi and all of that. And to be honest, like the last 2 years, this applies to this Gamescom and the Gamescom before. Although at the Gamescom before, we just had some gameplay footage, but no actual demo.
Yeah.
But at this Gamescom, like everything was ready a week before. Everything was pre-tested, ready to go. So
locked in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just hope the production continues like that, and we go like even the early access is going to be ready a month in advance, and we're just going to sit back. Wait for
that is our plan. That is our plan. Yeah.
No, I mean this opens up an entire topic about sustainable development as well, right? Like you need to make sure that we're not killing ourselves making games. But yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much.